word on my way. Yeah, babe, yeah, babe.
On the heels of dropping that new song, Justin Bieber is also revealing a serious health condition. Bieber posted on Instagram that he's battling Lyme disease, saying while a lot of people kept saying Justin Bieber looks awful on meth, etc., they failed to realize I've been recently diagnosed with Lyme disease. Not only that, but I had a serious case of chronic mono, which affected my skin, brain, and overall health. His wife, Haley, tweeting, "For those who are trying to downplay the severity of Lyme disease, please do your research and listen to the stories of people who have suffered with it for years. Making fun of and belittling a disease you don't understand is never the way. All it takes is educating yourself." Joining me now, Dr. Amesh Adalja, who is an infectious disease specialist. Doctor, thank you for joining us. So for those of us who don't know about Lyme's disease, how is it contracted, and is it chronic? Is it serious?
So Lyme disease is something that's been around at least since the 1970s as a recognized clinical entity, and it's spread by the bite of a specific tick, the deer tick, and that tick has a certain habitat around the United States, and it's the most common tick-borne infection in the United States with probably over 300,000 cases. And it is usually a acute illness. There is not a recognized chronic form of it, although you will find lots of people that will discuss this and practitioners who will diagnose people with it. It is an acute infectious disease with stages, and there's a lot of mystery to it and a lot of misconceptions about it.
There are misconceptions. Anecdotally, I have heard, like you had said, people who note that once they have Lyme disease, it is something that stays with them for years and years. And so I'm curious as to the treatment. Do you have to get it right away? And what if you don't?
Well, the earlier you treat any infectious disease, the better it is. And we do have prescribed treatment regimens depending upon the stage that you have, and it usually will involve antibiotics for a period of maybe 10 days at the short end of that, and maybe about a month or so depending upon what the stage is if you have a later stage of it. But the infection then will disappear. It'll even burn itself out if you don't treat it. So it is not something that stays with you for life, and there's no evidence of that, despite what you might find on the internet. And I think this is what confuses patients, and they do have some illness. They have something that's behind their symptoms, but it doesn't appear to be Lyme disease.
And in Justin Bieber's case, perhaps is the fact that he's admitted that he also has chronic mono. For those of us who have had mono, it is awful. So I'm curious, those two together, it sounds like it packs a pretty heavy punch.
Well, that's another controversy, this whole idea of chronic mono. Mononucleosis is an acute infection, and it lasts about a month in people. There is no evidence that there's a chronic form of mono either. So I just wonder where these diagnoses came from, what tests were used to determine them, and what the actual cause of his symptoms are, because those are not really established medical entities that you're talking about there. Lyme disease and mono are both acute self-limited diseases that go away, and there are not chronic forms of them. So I'm not quite sure what he's referring to there.
Okay, and quickly, because we're running out of time, if you had to treat two of those simultaneously, could there be a conflict with the medication?
Well, there is no specific treatment for chronic mononucleosis. Right. It's just or mononucleosis acutely, or even this kind of nebulous term of chronic. So there is no treatment. It's usually just antibiotic therapy, but I don't believe his condition would be meriting that based upon what I've read so far in the media reports.
Right. Dr. Adalja, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.